Hello, 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 and welcome to today's Facebook Live. Today, I'm actually going to share a pretty vulnerable story, and it's really the story that led me to what I do and where I'm at in my life today. And so, I just think it's important to know people's history, especially when they're leading something around the topic of sexuality or finances, these very kind of sensitive topics in our life, or even relationship. These more sensitive topics in our life, it's nice to know where people are coming from. So I wanted to share my little story about how I got into teaching Taoist sexology and Jade Egg practices with you all today. So if you are here live, I see Foshi is here live, so that's wonderful. If anything I say or anything just kind of resonates with you, you can push the heart button, you can push the like button, and if there's any comments that you want to make or questions that you want to ask, then you can always put those in the chat box, and it's always nice to let us know, where you're tuning in from. It just gives me a little bit more context for you and where you're at in your life. And so, again, if anything that I'm sort of sharing about what happened for me is resonant or something similar to what happened to you, then go ahead and put that in the chat box as we move along. Hi, Clara. So nice that you're here. I love having you here. It's so good. So long ago, I was a naive young woman. Imagine that. Have you ever been a naive young woman before? Probably. And so I was just 19 years old, and I had been hanging out with somebody. So I'd been hanging out, right? This other word for dating. I'd been hanging out with this guy. I'd gone on a couple of, hangout sessions with him. And it was probably like our third or fourth time hanging out. And I had just gotten off of work, and I used to deliver pizzas for a living. That's what I did when I was a young adult. I drove around and gave people pizzas, and they gave me really good tips. It's actually really good money for a young person. And so, but I'd had a rough night that night. I'd gotten lost several times. This was long before GPS. And I had just had a really difficult, challenging night with my fellow employees, and I wasn't feeling good. So really what I should have done that night is just gone home and taken care of myself. But I didn't have that level of self-worth inside of me yet. I hadn't acquired that at that point in my life. So when I got the message to go up and visit this man that I'd been hanging out with again, I immediately did that. I wanted to whisk away all of my feelings of woe is me, and I had a really challenging time tonight. So I did. I went up to the mountains. I drove up there. And, I had probably only like 2 or 3 beers that night. And, but one of the drinks that I had been slipped some Rufinol. So Rufinol is roofies, or the date rape drug. And so that night, basically, as the night progressed, I started to lose consciousness and memory. So the next day, I don't remember from a certain point in the evening until the morning time. And basically what happened was he took me back to his room, and, we had been making out. We'd already made out by this point. So we were, making out, and all was well, but we hadn't had sex. And I was pretty clear and pretty adamant that I wasn't in that. I didn't want to have sex. I was in that realm, and I'd made that clear before this evening as well with him. So, but that evening I was so out of it. I was just completely, didn't really have access to my body and to my wherewithal to get up and to leave. It was almost as if I was watching myself from above, like I was out of my body watching what was happening without being able to do anything about it in my physical body. And so it wasn't a black and white kind of rape experience. It wasn't a man jumping out of the bushes and holding a knife to my throat and raping me. It wasn't that kind of situation. It was more of a gray kind of rape. this gray area where I had willingly actually gone to his room and we had been making out and being in a sexual realm together. And then when it came time for penis, vagina, and the sex to occur, I do have snippets of memory that came back later on where I had pushed him away and I said no, and I said we're not having sex. I said all those things several times. And what ended up happening was he had sex with me anyway, and I just wasn't strong enough to get up and walk out and leave. So I didn't have the mental capacity or the wherewithal within myself to do that. And the next day, and then of course I passed out after all was said and done. And I woke up the next day just feeling really weird, just like, what is going on here? What happened? And he was really just like normal and kind of like nice and attentive and like, can I get you some water? Whatever, that kind of stuff. And, he even walked me out to my car that morning, and I just remember thinking like, this is so weird. I was totally violated last night, but I didn't even really remember or know what had happened yet. I just remember feeling off inside of myself. A couple days later, I went and hung out with a girlfriend of mine, and I told her what happened in the story and like how weird it all was and how I felt off and strange in my body. And she basically laid it on the table, and she was like, what that boy did to you was rape. And it all just settled into my body. And I really realized that what she said was true, that I had been violated, that I had been taken advantage of, that I had been drugged, and that I had been raped. And so it was just a big, big, big moment in my life. Several days after that, so I started feeling like major downward spiral, right? Like my frequency and my vibration was going down, down, down. And it was probably 2 or 3 days after that I started getting really nauseous and really sick, like physically sick. And I thought it was just from the trauma of the rape. But then several days after that, I took a pregnancy test. And the pregnancy test was negative. And I was like, whew, thank God, right? So, but it was too early to tell. So, another week later, I took a second pregnancy test, which ended up being positive. And here's the triple whammy. So raped, pregnant from rape, and I got an STD from it as well. So there I was, 19 years old, contracted an STD from this rape experience, got impregnated from this rape experience, and not really sure what the hell to do with myself. So my friend who was with me at the time, she really helped me get moving forward. She really helped me get onto a healing path. She helped me in my decision to not have that child. She helped me to get onto a path that was going to help me heal. She found the right place for me to go and really supported me through the whole process. So I'm super grateful to her for that. And so I got on this healing path. And I realized that healing was the only thing that I wanted to do in my life. So I got on the sexual healing path early, at age 19, age 20. And then I got on, went on to do massage and yoga and acupuncture and everything under the sun. And that's how I became a healer, essentially. And what I'll say is that this whole experience is something that I'm so grateful for. It's something that I wouldn't be where I am now without. So I'm deeply grateful for it. And the sexual healing path that I got on was the Taoist sexual healing path. Into my 20s, after I did the initial healing, the initial work that I needed to do for the first year of healing, then I got into a relationship with a man who had been practicing Taoist sexual practices for several years before that. And so he really introduced me to Taoist sexology. And I remember the first couple times I was with him, I was like, what is, what is this all about? What's this non-ejaculation thing that you're doing? And so that's how he introduced it to me. And he gave me a book, and I'm a voracious reader, so I read that book. And I went to Asia and I started studying this tradition. I started studying with masters over there about Taoist sexology and how it can heal the body. And one of the most valuable tools that Taoist sexology teaches is the Jade Egg. So I started using the Jade Egg, and every time I would use it, I would put a prayer for deeper healing in my body and women around the world who'd also been through rape or some similar situation. Boy, I really didn't think I was going to get this emotional today, but I'm fighting something off as well, so I'm a little more vulnerable and sensitive. So I began to study this Taoist sexual thing. I started using the Jade Egg, and the healing work that came through that practice was exponential for me. As soon as I started wearing my Jade Egg every day and doing the clearing that I teach in my courses around the Jade Egg, clearing out the vaginal tissues from old traumas, old pain, old shame, old stories, and also using that Jade Egg to bring forth more magic and more joy and more light and more pleasure into my life. As I began to practice that on a regular basis, I started to see my outer reality, my outer world start to shift and change. And that outer reality started to shift and change because my inner landscape was changing. Hormones is a whole other topic of what went wrong throughout that whole experience. So that was another piece that the Jade Egg brought into the healing experience, was it allowed my HPA axis and my HPO axis to come back into a conversation with the rest of my body so that everything was working fluidly inside of my body and my life. I then went on from that relationship onto other relationships, and over time, I eventually found the partner who could really support me and hold me and take me into a deeper level of healing with this sexuality, with my relationship to sexuality. And so a lot of that came from my practice with the Jade Egg, because I started out calling in healing, and then I kept using the Jade Egg to manifest and call in that partner. So when that partner came into my life, he had already been practicing Taoist sexology for probably the past 20 years. So he was really a master at it. And he taught me a ton about how to use your sexual energy to bring it to different places in your body and how to use it to manifest whatever it is that your heart desires. So it was a deeply profound spiritual journey and spiritual path. And I am just now emerging with the Jade Egg Remedy course. We led our first course in March, and we had massive success. I mean, some of the women who went through that course are now getting off of hormone replacement therapy. Some of them are, finally feeling their core and their centers for the very first time in their lives, because some women had to go through these sexual abuse stories when they were children. I mean, being 19 was young enough, but imagine being 5, 4, 3, 2 years old. These are some very, very deep wounds that the Jade Egg really, really helps to mend and heal. And the course that I created, the Jade Egg Remedy course, is really a remedy, not only for your emotional and spiritual healing work, but also for your endocrine system, for your body, for what's going on inside of you. So we really want to get the root of what's happening inside of your body and your relationship with sexuality, as well as your as well as your spiritual and emotional. So the endocrine is the root, and then the spiritual emotional side is kind of those patterns that we spin off into, where we keep attracting the unavailable man, or we keep having financial issues, or we keep having a partner in our lives who is all wonderful except that he's not financially stable, whatever the pattern is. It's these patterns that can get broken down and pulled apart and unraveled so that you can start to create a different reality around yourself. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to let go of your current partner, but rather it means that your current partner is going to shift things in your life around you. It doesn't mean like everything has to go away and you have to bring in new stuff. It means that when what changes inside of you will then change outside of you as well. It's the reflection that you really are the creator of your world around you. And this is a very old ancient Buddhist philosophy. If you've studied any Buddhism, you've definitely studied this. So please join us for the Jade Egg Remedy course. It's an online course and it meets for 4 weeks. We meet on Zoom and we have an incredible opportunity to heal with other women who have been through life, really. It doesn't have to be through rape or some kind of abuse story, but just life. I mean, we've all been through heartbreak, we've all been through heartache, and we've all been through experiences that take our vibrational field down. So what I love to do and what I love to teach is how to use the jade egg and to carry it around inside of your pelvic bowl for hours at a time and to create a higher vibrational field around yourself. So an upward spiral for you in your life. And we start this Thursday at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, and I would love to have you join us. We have an incredible group of women already formed, and I think we've got about 5 spots left. So if you want to grab one of those, we're going to put the link for you to take one of those spots in the feed of this Facebook page, and I'll also put it in the comments section here right now. And that's about it, my loves. It's just been a pleasure to share my vulnerability with you. I shared it via email, and now I'm sharing it via Facebook Live. And like I said, I would not be where I am without this experience. So I am forever grateful for everything that came through from that experience, all the pain and the heartbreak and the heartache, and all the love and the joy and the healing that emerged from that as well. So blessings, love, and I will see you all very, very soon, hopefully on Thursday night for our first Yoni Palace, where we will be setting up a temple inside of our pelvic bowl, inside of our vaginas, for deeper connection to our bodies and to our sexual organs. Okay, much, much love, blessings and light. Namaste.